Now, I thought this would actually be a really exciting match. So, we've got two people that we've watched on the stream before. One of them has only featured on the YouTube side of things, though, as I did have to cut Leenock's games out. Leenock, for those that aren't familiar, is a very talented player. We saw him... In fact, 1 second, I just realized I need to switch my profile. I literally have a profile for observing so you guys get the nice effects. But yes, so Leenock is quite the talented player. We actually saw some games on the stream of him playing China before the patch. For those that aren't familiar with Leenock, Leenock has earned quite a lot of money as a pro player in StarCraft 2. In fact, I think it's over $250,000 in earnings. So he's an incredibly decorated, incredibly established player. I've been playing since about 2012. We've seen him play a lot of China, and one thing I will know about Leenock, he's incredible at forcing late-game situations out of his opponents, and he is becoming quite masterful at China. So I thought this would be an amazing matchup, because on the other side, we've got a face that's featured several times on the channel already, Iaguz playing as the HRE. Iaguz originally coming from a StarCraft background as well, but most noticeably on this channel, just dumpstering people time and time again on HRE. So we've got two specialists on their preferred civs, in a matchup on Confluence, and it's after the patches have dropped. Not the most recent one that's going to be upcoming, the spring one, but I hope to get this up on YouTube before that. But keep in mind that the patch that did drop recently made quite a few changes to China that makes them quite the powerhouse now. And then on the other side, HRE, in the eyes of a lot of these HRE players, got heavily nerfed. Not only because of direct changes that some tweaks kind of help, but some push them back. Things like, for example, fixing prelates not buffing if they get knocked into. That's a great buff, of course. As well as making sure that the buffs for infantry works correctly. That's a buff as well. But then also on the other side, taking away that plus 15 health you got from getting those buffs on your man-at-arms was a nerf. But the kind of tier-total balance that definitely makes me feel like HRE shouldn't be necessarily favored in this matchup. And I think Matisse made a fantastic post in detail about this on the AoE4 Reddit, is that with the nerfs to Horsemen, HRE was hit incredibly hard because it removed a giant chunk of their actual flexibility in the early game and made them a very one-dimensional civ. And he felt like you can actually go check the post if you search Horseman AoE for Matisse, it'll probably come up. But he went in detail on this about why like the Horseman nerf is kind of made them irrelevant. It's very hard to pull off. We have, of course, seen 3DB recently here on the channel pull it off, a Horseman spam, but that was actually very situational. That was against Ruse, where I would actually favor that because they usually get Horse Archers and the Horsemen get the bonus damage. And also just 3DB played an amazing opening as China. And I think that speaks more to the power of China and how they can even utilize Horsemen to a great degree, more than it speaks to the power of Horsemen in the current patch. So on the openings, we do see Leenock go heavily on to the tree line, prioritizes getting on the water, something that Guz has also done. Guz, I think, was he out sooner? Yes, he was. Keep in mind that the Chinese player will take the advantage here, though, as these docks work 20% faster, right? If I recall correctly. So it's 20 seconds, and then it should be over here. We've got the 25. Now, the catch is whether actually Leenock can keep up with the demand of wood in the early game to get the extreme value out of that in the opening phases. I think in terms of who has the edge here going up into feudal and who'll be able to push the other off the water, I could see an edge slightly for Guz here. Because if I recall correctly, in one-on-ones, I think the galley is more cost-effective. Like, although it costs more, I think it can actually duel up against the junk reasonably well. The only catch is if Leenock ever manages to get to a higher quantity and makes Guz run away, right? Because then, of course, you turn away. That's the crux of the galleys, is they can't fire if they aren't looking in the direction. Whereas, of course, the junks will just be able to just Hail Mary no matter whether they're running away or going towards. So opening-wise, Leenock getting a lot of sheep already. I think this is just a one-scout play so far. One cool thing actually Leenock could do here, and it's something that actually the Chinese are incredibly strong at right now, is he could build into a stable as soon as he gets up to feudal and then spam out several scouts by supervising to get them out quickly. The reason you do this, by the way, would be to get the advantage of snatching away all these carcasses. I don't necessarily expect it on Confluence just because there is the water to contest over, and that's where the priority is going to be for probably both of them. So although it would be an amazing play to snatch away a lot of food on land, there wouldn't be anything to stop Guz from just staying on the water in that situation. You'd have to like side invest into getting scouts as well as a stable, and that would be 150 wood. 150 wood that's already being spent in different ways, right? He's already up to 2 docks. Guz still hanging around on 1 dock so far. And I do expect Guz to be capable of a quicker tech-up timing. Yeah, and he's already on his way to it. The Arkan Chapel is halfway built almost. And you just expect this to happen, right? This is one of the big benefits. When you've got a tight, small economy, the prelates really do make the difference with a 40% extra gathering speed as well as capacity. And of course, he already had 7 people over here on gold, so he's prioritizing that. I think Guz is going for the quick castle age timing that we see quite often out of HRE players. And being up against China, you would feel confident that you can get away with this, right? China has kind of historically so far for, since this game released, been seen as this very slow, kind of economical powerhouse that needs to hit their own castle age timing. But I wouldn't write them out. Although they are slightly delayed, there are other plays now open to Chinese players. For example, you could quickly get both of your fuel age landmarks and go into Zhugnu rushes. I don't know if I'd say Zhugnu rush is the way to go, unless you already scout out that your opponent is loose. The reason being is actually anyone who has experience against HRE understands that their economy is quite tightened, and it's very hard to breach, because they stack tall, right? They don't actually expand out. They don't go for that second TC pull far away from their city. In fact, quite often, HRE players rarely go for a second TC. In fact, the more popular play we've been seeing out of quite a few high-level players when they play HRE is they actually play off a 1 TC, they go for a hard tech boom, they look for that imp age timing, and then they get their hands on the economical landmark, which of course is the palace that produces villages 75% quicker and at a quarter of the cost. So that's something to keep in mind. Leenock dropping the Barb gonna suck. I love this placement, by the way. Guards the sacred site in case, that comes into contention later. More importantly, covers his own dockyard area in case he gets pushed back. I think this is him identifying what we just talked about, how the galleys can actually trade out fairly well with the junks. I think junks don't even necessarily have that big of an advantage on build time. It's 46 to 29. But with the second dock going down, and Guz, of course, beating him to feudal, this is why Leenock makes this move, because he knows he's initially going to be on the defensive, but with 3 docks, he could easily reach a critical mass point where he could push the galleys back and then take Guz off the water. But he does need to get full value of the water before this food for the time being. Because remember, in terms of scaling, in this timing, at least up until the 10-12 minute mark, it's going to be very hard for Leenock to compete with a tightened economy and how quickly they gather, courtesy of the Prelate and now the Arkan Chapel. And you can already see it on the wood line, right? 12 people here. Bunch of villagers working over here. I expect a second Prelate to just buff this gold line. It's worth it so you can get a big enough galley fleet. But it might just be that Guz goes more defensive after he encounters the Barbican of the Sun here. Because how do you actually breach this with galleys? The answer is you just really don't. If anything, you just want to hold this mid choke point so you get your value off the water. Just accept that you'll never be able to stop your opponent either. So yeah, we can see the numbers, right? The junk, galley. Galley has less health, but hits harder and has a lot more resistance. 3 more resistance, in fact. So against these burst attacks, the junks, you can see it actually fares much better. In fact, already almost losing one of these junks. Guz, not able to pursue it, though. I think once he gets to about 4 galleys, he's able to actually rinse these pretty quick. So you do have to be careful if you're Leenock. You can easily end up losing this trade in the long term. Back on land. So it is up to 8. The Prelate is here as well. Guz should be well suited to go for a quick tech up if he chooses, but keep in mind his gold gains are going to be stunted a little bit because he'll have to invest into more galleys. That is exactly why he got the Prelate out on this gold line so quickly in the end, right? Is he knows he's going to need it. He even invests more people, understanding that, wood levels are fine. And you don't have to worry about being aggressive on land because you can see very clearly that your opponent is fully engaged on the water with you, so he's unlikely to be fielding a land army as well. Oh, well, Galley's winning out. This wasn't even with supervision, by the way. He could actually produce these junks so much quicker. It just seems like Guz has stunted his growth a little bit. He's got more coming out now, but looks like for the moment there'll be enough to deter Leenock away. Remember that his burst attacks can actually bring you quite low on the junks. And he actually might snipe one out here. He's going in for it. Not able to catch up. I believe the junks are quicker, right? 1.5, yeah, compared to the 1.38. So this is part of the teeter-totter balance, right? Is Guz should be able to win out in even numbers, but how does he chase? Especially when you have this retreat point underneath the Barbican of the Sun. It's always going to be a problem that Guz, probably until at least midway through Castle Age, won't have a solution to. And it might just eventually become an immediate stalemate in the center. If anything, you just might see each just trying to guard their own island with their docking areas, and not really trying to aggress the other just because it would be a ridiculous slog and probably a stalemate at the end of all of it. I think the big timing for both is actually going to be hitting that castle and then looking to nuke them down with the boom ships, right? And to that degree, I do feel like Guz could hit that timing first. And also, if your whole priority is on the water and there's no land forces, that is going to actually be an advantage for Guz because it means he should be able to fairly safely move out and secure these relics, of which 4 of the 5 are actually on the northern island here. Scout just being a little bit frustrating, a distraction so you can actually engage on the water. Guz is outnumbered, but remember, he talked about that extra damage he has. He's beginning a crawling retreat here, able to just fire down upon these one by one. Already decent trades. Guz with a micro just superior right now as Leenock not able to push past the primary line as he doesn't want to go in too deep. He wants to give himself the option to retreat. And as a result, has still yet to snipe out any of these. These galleys, by the way, with their 5 tile range, just good enough. And it's going to back him off. So Leenock losing, I think that was 3 ships in total. Doesn't sink a single one. Does injure Guz, so Guz less likely to actually pursue this, right? But just a problem right there. I feel like the micro is just better. Leenock had to commit into that to try and sink each of them. The problem is he's on home field, right? The dock healing as well. It feels kind of problematic. But if you're going in like that and you know you're going to lose 1 or 2, maybe 3 of those ships, at least get the trade out of 2 for the free, right? Because then you keep the number advantage. Instead, you're going to have to invest more heavily. But the good news is he did actually get the tech up before Guz. So Leenock in the castle age already means he can go into the boom ships now. You can already see one's queued. So Guz in a little bit of trouble here. Halfway through his own tech up, so he's going to be late and delayed to get his demo ships out, right? And you already see the impact of that. He's not even retreating, he's just trying to get the best trades he can, understanding that if he holds in these choke points, he will lose to the boom ships. I'll begin the back away. Barely just limping out there. Good news for him is that the junks are delaying the explosive junks pursuit. Explosive junk, of course, being quicker than the archer ships. Trying to move in, will be sniped out though, not able to find the boom value. And now with the dock healing, this is where Leenock is going to lose most of his fleet here. So tech up is complete, more galleys coming out. Cancels one, looks to switch over to Hulks. And is the same being done on the other side? No. No war junks being built by Leenock at all. Leenock instead, is he opting to go on land now? It doesn't look like it. This is kind of surprising the way it's now playing out. Guz is going to have the superior economy in the coming minutes because he'll be able to just hoover up all those relics. And because he's switching into Hulks, he should have an edge there as well. But he does need to be careful about explosive junks. Explosive junk that chooses to go for the military instead. Does sink the rest of the fleet, but he could have easily hit into the eco there and got rid of all 6 fishing ships instead. So Hulk, almost complete. Both docks, in fact. And it's still just normie junks coming out, so no intent for war junks. The boom ships either, but now the Hulks will be able to sink the remaining of the junk fleet. Leenock just going as deep as he can. Is he trying to snipe out the prelate? Yeah, he is. Oh, this is so big brain. This is so smart. He knows the fleet is going to be lost either way, right? There's no way that that's not going to change. So he does the best thing he can, snipes out the prelate, delays the return of the relics to this cathedral, and that was the first relic, by the way. Iaguz still unable to actually bank any just yet. He did build additional prelates to building them out here, and you can already see one is on his way back. But now he has to replace them, right? And that's also going to stunt his villager growth to do so. So Hulks will be dragged all the way away, and that allows time for reinforcements to arrive. However, 3 junks will not be out the galley with the healing here, and he'll have to just retreat away. And I worry for Leenock in this situation now. He didn't transition into the big boys, right? He didn't go for the war junks. In fact, he's just still going for explosive junks. So if Guz keeps a front line of 3 or 4 galleys and then backs it up with 2 to 3 Hulks, they can sink the demo ships, move in, and then sink the docks. And that will force Leenock completely off the water. And right now, although he has reached the Song Dynasty, he hasn't looked for any land army, right? He's still just trying to eco-boom. But he's switching up now. I like this move. Stables down. Lance is being produced. No interest in the astronomical clock tower in this situation. He needs a dynamic army that moves fast. Because he needs to get across those choke points before Hulks block them off. Boom ship in. Decent damage done. Hulk's just lingering around the side. Guz, yeah, please tell me I'm moving the galley down. This would be the smart move. He's already walled up, so he's actually not threatened. Oh, he might even snatch this one. There is double wolf. That's why the galley and the Hulk are here, to protect the priest as he picks it up. So Prelate will be able to pick up the nearby and move it back. That's going to be 3 of the relics achieved. And because he's got these additional prelates, he can move them out to secure the remaining northern relics and then set up a second temple. And that will give him superior income to what Leenock has and will be able to achieve. Leenock should be able to start booming now, considering he went back for the Song Dynasty, though. He can just focus on land, right? He can go for the double TC if he wants to. Like, if we look at the count right now, Leenock up at 60 economy, Guz at 52. But we have to equate in the additional value that Regnitz is now giving. So if anything, Guz is like 5, 6, maybe 7 villages ahead at this stage. Fight engaging. Galleys. Uh-oh. Hulks are going to try and back up. Manual booms, decent damage. One of them still alive, but the Hulks will finish it off. So he does lose the Galleys, but not the worst trade in the world considering the cost of Galleys compared to explosive junks. He's rebuilding the explosive junks right now. Guz pushing in here. We'll be able to start sinking the fishing fleet. Needs to be careful because he's right where these units can spawn. And it looks like war junks are now being produced by Leenock. He delayed this for quite a while, but realizes he does need it. And he's baiting him in. Guz in a lot of trouble here. Boom ship's not really doing enough damage here. We'll sink one of the Hulks at least. And with the war junks coming out, he will have the edge. But keep in mind those Hulks are continuing to trickle in for Guz. And he is replacing the Galleys as well. Galleys that are meant to be a direct counter to the incendiary ships. Or as I like to call them, the boom ships. So, war junk now out. Stuck here, but at least killing off a few villagers. And just pinning in the corner of the fleet. This stone will prevent him completely from getting into Leenock's base. So Guz really probably likely to just heavily invest onto the water to try and take full control of the intersections, right? Because now he doesn't have any other option. Like, he can try and siege on land, but he's not ready for that pivot. Instead, going for the Palace of Swabia. This is what we were talking about, right? This is what the HRE players do. They like to boom up. We know Guz absolutely loves to boom up. He does it almost every game we see. And this means that now his economy is going to vastly outscale Leenock's. Because Leenock, although he went for the Song Dynasty, although he went for this second TC, with a 30% reduction, double the production, right? That's down at 13 seconds. This Palace of Swabia not only costs you 75% less on each of the villages, but only costs 5 seconds to produce them. And you will see a big lead start to build, which is why Leenock now needs to try and pressure in and snipe out Guz's fishing economy to slow him down. And Leenock has to be fully aware of this, right? And the fact he started investing the war junks this late after losing so many ships put him behind on the economy scales, right? So he's actually not at that stage where he's able to tech up himself. And look at the gold difference right now. This is because Leenock is transitioning onto a new gold line, but even when he's got all these returning, he's not going to compete with what Guz is generating at this stage. And that's a problem. It means that Leenock needs to end this game sooner rather than later. Boom ship gets the lead. Second one coming in, though, and hasn't been addressed. Is going to pursue the Hulks. Hulks get sunk. One down, second to fall. Big mistakes made there. Guz didn't want to micro on the spot to manually boom them. Instead, he was hoping the auto attacks would do it for him. But he's on the home field, and he does have the outpost to protect. He's going to lose a few of these fishing vessels, but the Hulks should be able to hold out against this. Especially with new units being produced. He's actually getting explosive junks of his own. In fact, both of them building explosive junks. And on the side, he is going for the explosives. This is a big deal, folks. We talked about how powerful this is. This is where Guz can actually force Leenock off the water because of that technology alone. If he starts getting into the incendiary ships with the explosives tech, he will not only be able to sink fleets with great value, but he will also be able to take out these docks in the blink of an eye. And that's when Leenock will be forced completely off and onto land. And at that stage, like, I don't think he's ready for that transition at all. Right? If anything, he's trying to scale his economy the second TC and reach Imp Age. Knowing he's already going to be 2, maybe 3 minutes behind his opponent to get there, he has to understand that he has to forfeit ground and has to set up a defensive location so that he doesn't get sniped off the water completely at this stage. And that's why he just offsets, moves away, doesn't keep the aggression up. And more docks being dropped by Guz. Guz understanding where he has the advantage and want to push it. Demo ship pursuing in. Will be boom, but look at that. Look at the impact of that. That range almost taking out that dock from half health. And when he pushes them in 2 or 3 at a time, keep in mind demo ships 1.5. War junk moves at 1.15, right? When he was just producing these junks, which are meant to be the counter to the demo ships, right? They move quickly away. It's not the case for the war junks. And look at this, the explosive junks! Guz gets in, he sinks it all! 3 for the price of 1, and he throws in the war junk and dock for good measure. And Guz, with the Barbican Sun so close to the shore, he'll be able to expose this as well. And he's going deeper. He wants the economy instead. Guz could easily snipe down this fort very quickly, though. Keep that in mind. That's definitely a preferred action. Look at that. At that range, taking out a third of the health of the dock. This is absurd technology, folks. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you hit Imperial Age, explosive tech on any map that features a reasonable amount of water is hands down the best value technology you'll research in the entire game. And nobody will convince me otherwise. The demo ships should keep crawling through. Carrick's now being built. I love this move. We talked about the way that Leenock's built. He's built towards the shores, right? Which means he's got a lot of exposed infrastructure here. So going near Carrick's, it's not often we get games where it's really good, but this is definitely one of them. Carrick's able to boom one of the ships, needs to back up. Remember, it is insanely slow. Does get the second one before it gets in range, though. And with 2 Carricks, I don't know how you're going to reach from these demo ships. I don't think you can. These Carricks, by the way, because they're so much more tanking the war junks, they will trade effectively with them. Not in terms of economically, but definitely in terms of number. And Leenock's still not ready for that tech up. He keeps being forced to invest more ships on the water, ships that he continues to lose. And now with the double boom ships moving in, Dock should be going down, and so should both these ships as well. That's another one gone. And Guz pushing his opponent off. Just 1 Dock left for Leenock. I keep calling Leenock. I think it's Leenock. It's hard to... Like, Leenock is just so natural, you know? I mean, Guz winning with HRE feels natural at this stage, right? Oh, Guz. Oh my god, does he see it? No, he's so close to having vision! If he spotted that out, if he snipes out that expansion, Leenock is going to be completely denied on the gold front, but no, just out of range. In the meantime, they do see this keep over here. Carrick's moving in. 3 explosive ships. This will be the final push that pushes Leenock off of the water completely. And just as he reaches Imperial Age. So at least he delayed this situation. But now he's going to have issues around these choke points, right? How do you contest that? Boom, boom. Kapow. Everything just going down. Maybe even the walls will fall. I don't think it's enough to kill off the walls outright, but decent damage can be done. And he plays it safe. He sends the demo ship deeper in case there is another dock down here, but now with this info fed in, he understands that he has full control of the naval side. And look at the villagers! Oh my god! Remember, the Carricks, they have some splash damage to them, which you just saw. And he's sniping out these villies. So that's going to be several of them being lost. Leenock just moving them all to the gold line. 86 eco to the 116 of Iaguz now. Guz definitely in dominant position to try and close this game out because now he's boxed his opponent in. You can see he's positioned the Carricks across at the crossings. And with Imperial Age being reached, Leenock will start to go into those bombard cannons coming out of the astronomical clock tower, thus getting the 50% bonus health. But it's going to be a slow-moving army. And look, advantage already there for Guz. Guz already starting to transition into land. Has the man-arms, has the bombard cannons, and he can push in and expose this gold line. Carrick should be able to hit into the bombard. I think it might be too late to win the trade, though. Yeah, he understands. He's probably lost this. If he cycles it, I think he wins. He just needs to cycle. And yeah, look at the retreat coming out. He's like, oh, this was a bad idea. So Leenock will back up, showing respect to the Carricks. Barbican's son was never taken out in the end, by the way. Guz just wanted to prioritize those choke points. He doesn't really care about this fort in the center anymore. Speaking of forts in the center, this one's going to fall quickly. And look at this. Guz is guarding the retreat. He will lose this Carrick in the end because the repair's coming out of the bombard. But the man-at-arms are in, and they're going to be able to snipe out a few of these villies before they get out. And the more important thing is now Leenock is being completely denied, right? He can't move to the south. He's lost his expansion to the north, so he's no longer getting gold. And this is where you become starved. You're already going to be starved in comparison to what Guz gets, courtesy of that Regnitz Cathedral. But it's going to become doubly, triply noticeable now. And my god, the wood income for this lad. Over 3,000 wood gained per minute right now. Just juicing his workers non-stop. Only 1 relic not secured in the end. Didn't bother to go with Tithe Barns. We don't see this often. I feel like frequently we just see players ignore Tithe Barns because usually they just want the extra gold. They don't want to sacrifice 500. Could go for the... Yeah, I think he did go for the inspiration increase. So these villies are being inspired to be 50% faster as opposed to the normal 40%, courtesy of the tech. And it's just allowing him to scale so much quicker. And now with 4 bombards, more men-at-arms coming. Nowhere really left for Leenock to run. He will at least stop himself, prevent himself from being boomed by the demo ships. But they're pursuing in quick. The bombards... Oh no, he needs to back them off quick. Moving in, needs the manual detonation. Can he get it? Decent damage done. Takes out one of the bombards, 1 down to half health, and heavy damage on the keep. The follow-up is bringing it low, and the bombards will finish it off. Leenock's base is exposed. And Leenock, he's trying to switch over to Fire Lancers now. A decent solution with the splash damage against these cluster formations, even the men-at-arms. But he really needs to use them to reach the bombards, if anything. He is in mighty big trouble right now. Prelate's also moving out to secure the sacred sites, continuing that gold trickle up. Leenock, he can prevent a sacred site victory, but he cannot prevent a military victory at this rate. He just doesn't have the forces at this stage. And the Carrick, look, it's waiting for them, the villagers. Trying to move by. Man-at-arms straight into where the fort's being built as well. The panic coming out as Leenock just tries to react on several different fronts, and all of them seem to be failing. And everything is being exposed right now. And the Carracks just sniping out most of these villages. The keep probably not going to be complete here. I think this just might be done. Leenock barely has anything left. He's tried to build more military infrastructure to spam out the stables. And yes, the Fire Lancers are a great solution to the Bombards, but what about the Man-at-Arms? The Man-at-Arms are matching you out, taking out your Bombards and sniping out your economy directly. And you can see the count now, 79 compared to 120. Leenock, this is not what he had in mind when he went for the Song Dynasty and when he went for that second TC. And I think we're approaching tap-out territory right now. He's got plenty of landmarks left, but not much eco or much infrastructure to run it through with. And the Man-at-Arms will trade reasonable with Fire Lancers. Remember, they're buffed up with the two-handed and the heavy maces, so they actually dish out decent damage against these Fire Lancers. And it looks like he's not even microing it anymore. I think this is where he's going to call it. Really great effort coming out from Leenock. I love the way he tried to just transition back to Song Dynasty to boom up. But I do think that he had to understand that, guys, once he had the advantage in the Imperial Age, Leenock's only play was to maybe play into land. And because he doesn't do that, because Guz buys his patience, buys into the Carracks, and then just scales up courtesy of all the relics on the map, there was no way Leenock could win this. He needed to expand on the other islands. It was his only hope. And as a result, Guz taking control of that intersection, taking control of the water, closes this one out and shows us once again why he's a master of the HRE.